Alright, bro. You see the title, you see the thumbnail, you know what we're here for. I know there's been a little bit of controversy, a little bit of doubt lately about my prediction abilities and my skills. Okay, but just remember who picked Marab. Just remember who picked Kevin Holland to lose to Wonderboy. Okay? Remember back who picked who picked Sean Strickland over Imavov. That was me. Okay? I know what I'm talking about, alright? So I'm gonna give you every title fight that's gonna happen in 2023. I've got the script from the UFC. Dana sent me the script, and I've got it here today. Okay. So I'm gonna do men's divisions because the women's divisions is just gonna be all like fights we've already seen. Pretty much, it's just rematches. But that seems to be a running theme in the UFC. So in the men's flyweight division, obviously Pantoja versus Moreno just got booked for International Fight Week. Very excited about that because I think Pantoja is gonna win, bro. And I think before the end of the year, after that fight, we're gonna get the trilogy. We're gonna get Moreno versus Pantoja 3 for the belt. If it's gonna load, my whole computer's dead. Yep. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. There we go. I don't know why it says two. They've already fought before in the UFC and Pantoja won. I think Pantoja is gonna beat Moreno in the second fight and win the trilogy. Then the trilogy is gonna happen. Sorry. So I think for the flyweight division, we're gonna get Pantoja versus Moreno International Fight Week. Pantoja is gonna win that. Then before the year is over, they're gonna have a trilogy fight. Okay, so that's the next flyweight title fight, and then that division's done for the year. Okay, men's bantamweight. All right. So we got Cejudo versus Aljo coming up. I think that Cejudo's gonna win. I've decided fully. I've picked Cejudo's gonna win this fight, and I think the UFC is not gonna give Aljo an immediate title shot because I think they don't really like him as the champion. I think there's another guy that they really want to give a title shot to. You know him. I know him. You know the UFC wants to do Cejudo versus O'Malley. You know they want to do it. You know they're going to the second they get the chance to. I think O'Malley is sitting around waiting to see what happens with Cejudo versus Aljo. And he's probably just going to fight the winner. And Marab is going to be forced to fight Umar and maybe Corey Sandhagen as well. It seems like that's what Dana wants to do to Marab. So after Cejudo versus Aljo, before the year is over, maybe in like December or like at MSG, Cejudo versus O'Malley is probably going to happen. I feel like that's the next fight to make at bantamweight for the title, and I feel like that's going to happen at the end of this year, dude. So if Aljo wins, I feel like it's still going to be O'Malley, but I feel like it's going to be Cejudo versus O'Malley for the bantamweight title in 2023. That's the bantamweight division, okay? In the men's featherweight division, this is going to get real. Okay, dude. All right, bro. Sit down. All right, relax. Okay, don't get mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. We've got UFC 290. Volkanovski versus Rodriguez has been booked. Interim champ versus the undisputed pound for pound number one, who apparently beat Islam Makhachev, but we won't get into that. He's fighting Yair Rodriguez. A lot of people are thinking Volk's going to have this crazy domination performance. I think Yair's going to win, dude. I have this really bad feeling that Yair's going to win because he doesn't deserve to be the champion. That's how MMA works. A lot of people, when I pick fights, they go, bro, do you actually think this guy's better? Obviously fucking not, bro. Obviously, I don't think Yair Rodriguez is better than Volkanovski. But you've got to admit that MMA makes no fucking sense sometimes, dude. Like, it makes literally no sense. So, of course, Yair Rodriguez, who is 1-1 in his last two, basically, doesn't deserve to be fighting for the belt whatsoever. He'll be the one that beats Volkanovski. So, I think Yair's going to beat him, and then before the year is over, they're going to have a rematch for the title. Rodriguez will be champion, maybe in Mexico City in September or some shit like that. And I think Volkanovski will beat him if they rematch. So I think that's what's going to happen next. And if Volkanovski beats Yair Rodriguez at UFC 290, then I think there'll be a whole nother branching fucking multiverse timeline. I'll talk about that at the next one at lightweight. Okay, so at lightweight, Islam's already defended his belt this year against Alexander Volkanovski by a very close decision. Everyone kind of knows what card he's going to be on. He's going to be on Abu Dhabi at the end of the year. I'm going to build that card next week, by the way, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you sub if you want to see that, because I've built a really cool card for that. But yeah, so we know Islam's going to come back Abu Dhabi. And UFC 288, we've got Cejudo versus Aljo, but we've also got Beneil Dariush versus Charles Oliveira. And the winner of that is getting a title shot. If Charles Oliveira wins, I don't know if the UFC will give him a rematch. I got to be honest, I don't think the UFC will do that. If Charles Oliveira wins and Volkanovski wins, they're going to do Volk versus Islam 2 in Abu Dhabi. But if my world comes true Even if Volkanovski beats Yair, I know that's a crazy pick. Even if Volkanovski beats Yair, my pick is wrong, okay, which is prone to happen sometimes. But Neil Dariush is gonna beat Charles Oliveira. He's gonna beat Charles Oliveira, dude, and he's gonna get to fight for the title in Abu Dhabi. It's gonna be Makhachev versus Dariush, bro. Dude, but Neil Dariush is gonna beat fucking Charles Oliveira. And honestly, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if he beat Islam Makhachev, bro. He is actually like the worst nightmare matchup for both of those guys, in my opinion. So I think Beneil Dariush will get a title shot before the year is over, dude. So Abu Dhabi UFC 294, it's gonna be Makhachev versus Dariush, and like I said, I'm gonna build this whole card next week. So stay tuned for that because I've got a lot of things to say about this matchup. Okay, but that's what I think is gonna happen with the lightweight title fights this year. It's gonna be just Makhachev versus Dariush in October, and then the winner will fight again in like February or March, dude. So that's probably it for lightweight. Okay, welterweight. So we know that Colby Covington is going to get the next title shot, most likely July, against Leon Edwards. And I think Leon Edwards will win that matchup, but I do think Colby Covington is going to be a lot tougher than a lot of people think as a matchup for Leon. But it'd be kind of stupid for me to pick against Leon right now when he just beat the pound for pound former #1 twice in a row, knocked him out, and then basically outclassed him in that fight that they had at UFC 286. So obviously he's fighting Colby next. And then before the year is done, maybe on that Abu Dhabi card, because I do see a world happening where Leon and Islam end up fighting on the same card together, and then the UFC wants to do Islam versus Leon for the welterweight title. So I feel like that's a possibility, but here's what I think is going to happen with the welterweight title picture. Obviously, I made that video about Bilal deserving it more than Gilbert Burns. Go check it out if you haven't seen it already. It's on my channel. It's one of my funniest videos in my opinion. But Gilbert Burns is apparently going to be the backup for Leon versus Colby. I don't think he's getting a title shot. I don't think he's going to get one. I think here's what the UFC is going to do. They're going to do Bilal versus Shavkat because Dana White does not want to give Bilal Muhammad a title shot. He doesn't like Bilal. So he's going to do Bilal versus Shavkat. I think Shavkat wins that. And Dana White goes, you know what? This kid deserves the title shot. How can you deny him when he just beat Bilal Muhammad? Now he's going to give Bilal credit when Shavkat barely beats him by decision is what I think is going to happen. Okay? They're going to book Shavkat versus Leon Edwards. Okay? They're going to book Shavkat versus Leon Edwards. And they're going to do Gilbert Burns versus Colby Covington before the year is over. And the winner of Burns versus Covington will get the next title shot. And Bilal will have to win like 5 more fights to get another title, to get a chance at the title. Which he very well may do. But I do think that the person that will end up fighting for the belt after Colby Covington will be Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think he beats Gilbert Burns. They train together, so they're not going to fight. But if they did, he'd beat Gilbert. And I think he beats Bilal Muhammad. Barely, but he does beat Bilal Muhammad. And Usman maybe fights Bilal after he loses to Shavkat or something like that. Yeah, I just see this weird world happening where Shavkat beats Bilal Muhammad and Dana White gives him a title shot. And Gilbert Burns says, okay, well then give me this money fight with Colby Covington. And he gets the Colby fight because Colby Covington honestly has a pretty good chance to beat Gilbert, dude. I gotta be honest. I feel like he'd beat Gilbert, so that's what I think is gonna happen at welterweight with the title picture. Okay, now we go to middleweight. Very recently, just became very, very clear again. Alex Pereira got knocked the fuck out, bro. And Izzy's always active, so I do think Izzy will fight twice this year. I can't decide on the order of these fights happening, but I do think that Izzy wants a fresh opponent next. And I know they're talking about Hamzat versus Paulo Costa, dude. But if I was the UFC, I'd do Adesanya versus Chimaev. Adesanya versus Chimaev. Do it like August, September. Probably not in Abu Dhabi. I would say even if you can do it at UFC 290. Because they're talking about Jones versus Miocic is not going to happen at UFC 290. International Fight Week. Adesanya's taken no damage. Chimaev, you haven't fought in a fucking year, bro. So why don't we do Adesanya versus Chimaev International Fight Week, okay, which I think has a high possibility of happening if Volk's on the card now too. So maybe they do Adesanya Chimaev UFC 290, and then at the end of the year, I think another contender will have beaten all the other names that people are throwing around right now. Of maybe he should get a title shot. I think he's gonna beat Dricus du Plessis. I think he beats anyone else that maybe thinks they deserve a title shot. I think before the year is over, Robert Whittaker will get his trilogy with Adesanya. Maybe at like the December pay-per-view, maybe MSG November. I can just see Whittaker beating du Plessis and being like, bro, give me a fucking title shot, dude. No one else deserves it. I'll after Adesanya beats Chimaev, by the way, which I do think I think he beats Chimaev, to be honest, after that performance on the weekend. So I think Adesanya fights Chimaev, then fights Whitaker, or maybe he's like, fuck it, okay, give me Whitaker, and then at the end of the year he fights Chimaev. I think those are his two fights this year, to be honest, though. So those are the two title fights I see happening at middleweight this year. Okay, now we go to some easier ones. Obviously, we got light heavyweight division. I think there's only one title fight that's going to happen this year. After the way Jamahal Hill won against Glover Teixeira, I think he could come back earlier? Yes, but I don't think there's anybody that really deserves the title shot right now. So I think the UFC is just going to wait and do Jamahal Hill versus Yuri Prochazka, and I think Jamahal Hill's going to knock out Yuri Prochazka inside 2 rounds, bro. I feel like he's going to catch him on the inside with a hook and just put him down for good, bro. But it should be a really, really good fight, and I think the UFC is going to wait to do this fight. Maybe this happens September, no, November, maybe December. One of those type of pay-per-views, I feel like they'll throw this on there. And I think that'd be a really good fight, but I don't see Jamahal Hill fighting anyone else in the meantime. It's just too close now. I feel like he's just waiting for Yuri Prochazka, and I don't blame him, to be honest. Like, Ankalaev doesn't deserve it, Blachowicz doesn't really deserve it, so why not just wait for the most exciting matchup that probably deserves it the most? So that's what I think is going to happen with light heavyweight. Last one, we go to the heavyweight division. Maybe a bit of controversial thinking here. Obviously, like I said, Jones versus Miocic is the matchup they're trying to make. Apparently, it's not happening at UFC 290 because of negotiations. I do think that fight will get made. Maybe for like August. Maybe for an August pay-per-view. Maybe a September pay-per-view, a Texas card. I think the UFC will end up doing John Jones versus Stipe Miocic. August, September. Like I said, Texas, giving me big Texas vibes, this main event now. Or maybe they do California, something like that. But before I go any further, I think John Jones is going to retire after this fight, dude. I think John Jones is going to retire after he beats Stipe Miocic because he said after the Cyril Gane fight and before the Cyril Gane fight, Cyril Gane is my easiest matchup in the top 5. And it's not going to get any easier from here, basically, is what he's saying. So why would you take the risk trying to get to the title defenses when you've just beat the man who holds the record, most likely finished him if it's a good Jones performance, right? You've beat the heavyweight GOAT. You've destroyed Cyril Gane, who Francis Ngannou borderline could have lost to. Everyone agrees you're the GOAT, and some people will probably put you as the heavyweight GOAT if you beat Stipe Miocic and finish him. So I feel like John Jones has nothing left to gain fighting these contenders, and you're telling me that he's going to be... He was literally saying, he was like, bro, I just lost all my motivation. I just stopped caring. Do you really think he's going to get out of bed and train in the morning to fight Curtis Blades? Or like Sergey Pavlovich, dude? When he's already the champ and he just beats Stipe fucking Miocic. He has nothing left to prove. So I do think that John Jones will fight Stipe Miocic before the year is done. And then I think he's going to retire, bro. I think he's going to retire and just hang it up and retire as the GOAT after he beats Stipe. And then the UFC, the next pay-per-view probably, or 2 pay-per-views later from when that happens. Again, I can see a big December card happening with like heavyweight title fight, light heavyweight title fight. I think they're going to make it a vacant title fight. Vacant title fight for the heavyweight belt, and it's going to be Curtis Blades versus Cyril Gane. Can you not see the UFC fucking giving Cyril Gane another title shot if he wins one more fight, if he beats like Sergey Spivak at UFC 289, if he fights on that card or something like that, or he fights on an international fight, we can beat Sergey Spivak, or fights in a Fight Night main event and beat someone like that, or a Volkov, right? Can you not see the UFC just immediately throwing this guy back in for a title fight against Curtis Blades, who's had to earn his way to this title shot like 3 or 4 times? And I think before the year is done, the heavyweight title will be vacated by John Jones after he retires, and we'll get Blades versus Gane for the belt. That's my predictions for 2023. Let me know what you think down below. Am I wrong? Am I right? What fights do you think are going to happen that I didn't mention in this video? And let me know what you think of these fights that I think is going to happen as well. Let me know what you think, bro. So, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video, boys. Goodbye.